Okay, today we're here with how you say your last name? I don't want to mess it up.
Ann Crawford.
Crawford. I read your bio. It's interesting. Can you introduce to yourself to the audience, please?
Sure. My name's Ann Crawford. I live in Colorado. I've written 6 books, and I have 3 more on the way. And 2 of them are, one's an award finalist, and the other one is an award winner. And I'm also an award-winning filmmaker. And how much more did you want to know?
Well, I mean, because I read your bio, it's so interesting that you have, let's say, you express your creativity through writings and you expand the subject, right? Because I saw all the subject, the genre that you were in, like it blew my mind how that you're a person who loves creativity.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Oh, yeah.
was it always, because it's fascinating, you what you like, because I read it on Amazon. I couldn't, you like, it's on here, but I can't, oh, well, it takes time to load. But you like romantic stuff and you get into self-help. Well, how did you get into all these? Were you into, like, when you were a kid, did you develop your creativity?
Oh, absolutely. I like to tell people I've been writing since I could hold a pencil when I was about 3. My mom used to read to me when I was little, and she was actually very sick throughout my childhood, and she died when I was 17. So those times when she would read to me actually became extremely special to me, and I loved books, and I love the worlds they open up for people. Um, and I just always knew I was going to be a writer. When I was in college, it was the start of the yuppie time. It was in the 80s and all that. So I kind of tried to turn off my creativity, and I went into business and got it with a major in marketing, and that did not work. The books were like, yo, write me. And they're still doing that.
Thank you so much for that. How did you, during the tough time that your mom passed away, how did you deal with it? How did you cope?
Um, Ironically, I was it was my senior year in high school, and I was playing Emily in our town. Have you ever read that play? It's really, um, to have the opportunity to play Emily in our town right after someone dies is a remarkable gift. The play, at the end of the play, is all about death and how beautiful it is, and how humans don't really understand, but that death wakes us up. And so to be able to say those lines in that time was a huge gift to me. And I had a lot of friends who let me cry on their shoulder. And I mean, it really took years to get over, because at that age, that's just when you're pushing away, but you haven't come back to your parents yet. So I had been pushing away, but I never got that chance to come back. So it was hard. But I got very close to the rest of my family. My dad and I got very close, and I have a beautiful, wonderful husband now. And so,
How was his birthday? What was it, yesterday?
yes, it was great. It was great. We
Um,
went out to eat. It was pretty low key, but
that's good.
so,
I
yeah.
was thinking about what type of books that did you guys read when your mother was reading it for you?
Oh, she read me the Lonely Doll series, Stuart Little, Charlotte's Web, the classics, um, everything by Maurice Sendak, a great children's author. She read tons of books to me, and it really shaped who I became.
Hmm. When
Yeah.
that mean you didn't, because for me, I wanted to impact the special education, right? Since I was in special education, and the reason why I do the interview is so I can inspire people to say you shouldn't hate learning, you shouldn't hate reading. So many of
Oh,
so many people, because we have this idea that that the end of our day of education is that's where it's done, but that's not true, as you can see that because I can see,
Right.
because when you're going through the creative adventure of writing your books or filming, there's so much learning curve to learn, right? And that uh, we have this tremendous pain towards education. How was your because my education was, I felt stupid and dumb because I was pressured. But I think also it had to do with the fact, because I look back to my childhood, I think I had a lot of drama. I mean, not drama, but like with the T. I can't say not drama, but and it slowed my function of thinking because I think maybe I'm just trying to cope. How was your school days? What was it like for you?
Well, my favorite part was English and writing, and so I'd escape there. School was pretty okay. I mean, I had friends and I learned okay. It was home that was the hard part because my mom was so sick and eventually, ultimately dying. And my dad was an alcoholic as I was growing up. I'm very public about that. I wrote a blog about it.
Right.
Um, where I talked about we think people won't ever change, but they really can change. He
Right.
really did. He quit drinking when I was about 24 and just became a sensational human being. So, school was actually pretty good for me. It was the home that was the hard part.
Thank you so much. So when it comes to English, what did you experience? How when it what did you get A's in English? Because you like English and writing, right?
Yeah, yeah, I did get A's, and
What subject that you didn't really like?
um probably science, but but I didn't try very hard because it just didn't interest me at all. So
But then you get a really bad grade, right? What did
no,
you only
uh,
B, C, A,
B,
B?
B,
Yeah.
yeah,
The point I'm trying to make was to the people is that people try to measure your intelligence based upon your academic adventure. Like if you're in the class this and you get a D, that means you're dumb. But that's not really it.
no, no, that's
It
not it
doesn't
at all.
measure your intelligence, and that's why I'm saying I'm trying to gap between like there's history I hate the most. It was boring. But
Right,
math when I was a kid it was like oh, I can do well because I can just learn because it's interesting.
right,
Uh,
right.
just like creativity. How do you deal with your creativity? How do you since for me I'm a creative person too. How can you take that creativity and focus on how do you deal with that?
Well, one thing I wanted to say about learning is when somebody doesn't learn well in a certain subject, there's a way they can be taught, and the teacher and the parents just have to figure that out. And also, grades don't have very much to say about how a person does in life. I don't think. I know a lot of really smart people who are failing at life. I mean, smart people who got good grades who are failing at life. And I know people who didn't get good grades, but they're smart in other ways and they're succeeding in life. Life is done so many different ways. Um, about the creativity, my characters just kind of come and knock on my door and say, "Yo, write me." so,
Oh, okay.
so it's kind of easy for me. I mean, they won't leave me alone until I've written them down. So
Do
the
you
biggest example of that is with the story Spellweaver, which was about a woman, a healer during the witch hunts. And it was really hard to write that book. And I didn't want to write it at all. It was hard. Um, but they wouldn't leave me alone until I wrote it. So I finally just wrote it. I finally just sat down. I got the hard parts over with first, and then I could concentrate on the love story, which is always where I love to be. So,
do you
um,
do you watch Hallmark?
no,
No.
no. I mean, No, I
Well,
don't.
no chick flick. What people say, chick flick?
Chick flicks. I do watch chick flicks like When Harry Met Sally and Sleepless in Seattle and stuff like that. But I don't watch the Hallmark. I don't have a whole lot of time.
Yeah, of course.
So,
No, for yeah, because I watch those. I'm trying to think of in the hippies. How was the hippie days or whatever, like in the '80s? Because I'm trying to picture it.
well, the hippie days were the '60s. So I
Ah,
have a few sisters, and my brother were hippies. Not all of them, but they were really active in that time. And then the '70s were, that's when I was graduating from high school. And then the '80s, um, they were they were interesting. I mean, they were fun. It wasn't, I don't think they were as fascinating as the '60s were.
hmm.
I'm writing a book now that involves three generations of women all living under one roof. And the grandmother came of age in the '60s, and her daughter was actually conceived at Woodstock. So I'm really researching that time, and it just seemed to be such a great time to be alive. But we all have great times to be alive. So,
Yeah, I'm trying to picture because I watch was it Men in Black, and they have like the old time they had where they were wearing different clothes now that back then, because I can't go back in time. I'm trying unless I have like time machine to go back in time or back to,
right.
because I'm trying to imagine it. I can't, because we transitioned from like the '90s to you know how like the technologies, how we can like communicate all the way over that. When it comes to writing, how do you write? Like, do you sit and focus, or like do you like let your imagination run loose or something?
Both, actually. I sit down every day at around the same time, which is 8 or 9 o'clock, and I start writing. But the ideas come all day long, like when I'm doing the dishes or
Hmm.
singing in the shower or driving the car. In fact, more ideas come when I'm not at my computer. What I'm doing at my computer is tying all the ideas that have come together. So, and I always keep my phone nearby so I can write down notes and everything as things occur to me. And then the writing is stringing all those notes together. So, some people are plotters where they outline everything. I'm not one of them.
Really?
Mine come together like a spirograph design or something.
Hmm. So you don't do out? How do you when it comes to scenes, scenery, and background? Do you create it in your mind with imagery or vividly? How do you see it? How you see the world that you create?
Well, I usually write the action and dialogue, and then I fill in the scenery after that. Like what would be logical for a house where such and such was taking place. The scenery actually comes last. One of the ways I write is I call it um, paint layers. So the first layer is just the skeleton, the whitewash of the wall. And that's where just some action, dialogue, the idea of the scene is written down. And then another brush stroke would be adding more dialogue, more action, maybe a little bit of the scenery. But in the final brush stroke, the last few rounds of painting the room, that's where the scenery comes in. And I think you saw in my bio that I've been all around the world, so I have a lot to draw on. And I've lived in every continental time zone. I've lived on the East Coast, the West Coast, the Midwest, and now I'm in the Mountain time zone.
It give you a unique perspective of life, right?
Absolutely.
Because sometimes
Absolutely.
I feel like we can be so narrow sometimes. Like when it comes to life, we only see one way. Because I try to break my boundary between my perception. Because I feel like my perception it can help us or hold us back.
Right.
And in order to disrupt, I call it disrupt of the memory, because most of the time when we want to achieve something, we think that we can't achieve it, so we go back to our past memory. So you need to disrupt that with something that you never done before, so you can do
Right.
that. Because it's like, because I did it before, because I thought that in order to do something, you need experience, but that's not necessary. So you need to
Right. Right.
disrupt. What was it? What was I'm getting at? Right, your bio. You also film, because I saw your one of the film that you make. Why did you go film in the my mom country? Because I'm Vietnamese.
Vietnam. I've been there twice, actually. I went there in 1990 and fell in love with it, and that was before the embargo was lifted. So it was a very different experience from when I went back later. I just fell in love with the people. They were so beautiful. And in 1994, well, in 93, I came across an organization, the Veterans Restoration, the Veterans Vietnam Restoration Project. And they sent teams of vets over to give something back to the country, to go back to where they'd been stationed, and to hopefully heal their wounds of war. And I was very interested in their work, and I was studying filmmaking at the time. And that's when I asked them if I could film a team going back, and they said sure. So I did, and that film actually ended up winning a very prestigious award. And going back with those guys when they let go of 20 years of guilt, it was one of the honors of my lifetime, and it was just phenomenal. It was a phenomenal experience.
What type of food did you eat there? I'm curious.
Vietnamese.
Yeah, it's like
Lots of it.
yeah, yeah, the food, or like which one that did you like? Or which one was your favorite?
I remember having banana pancakes in Hue that were out of this world.
Okay.
I've had banana pancakes a lot of places, Thailand, Vietnam, all over, but the ones in Hue were they were phenomenal. But I love all kinds of Vietnamese food. So.
When it comes to filmmaking, why did you decide to go to filmmaking, and how did you like go through it?
Well, I was actually writing screenplays at the time, and a friend of mine was in a film class, and she recommended it. And so I just, I'm always up for trying new things. So I tried it, and I fell in love with it. All aspects of it. This was back in the day. This was like in the history of filmmaking, back when you read a light meter and tested it and all that kind of stuff, where you clap the clapboard. It wasn't digitized the way it is.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay.
And it was reel to reel, so you actually splice things and tape them together. It wasn't all on computer the way it is these days. So I just fell in love with it, and I started making student films. And then the Vietnam movie was my first big undertaking, and it was actually, it was such a phenomenal experience. And then my ex-husband and I decided to travel around the world and interview people about how we could make world peace. So that was another movie I made, and we went all over the place. That was another phenomenal experience.
It seemed like your life is full of adventure.
I'm very adventurous. One thing I love to say is I love flying high, diving deep, and all that kind. Because I can fly a plane. I go scuba diving. I ride the world's fastest roller coasters. I'm just a crazy, fun-loving person.
How do you? It seemed like, because do you have any fear trying something new? Because as we get older, we I can feel it. Like our brains are like not meant to like try, and then we have to like, for me, I'm talking, because every time I try something new, I have to like, okay, I gotta do this. Oh shit, it's gonna be scary, and I do it. But the thing is, like, how do you get over it? Like, all the trying new things?
Well, I love roller coasters and all that kind of stuff. The the plane, you have a pilot right next to you who is also steering while you're doing it. So there's not too much you can mess up because someone's right there with you, watching you every step of the way. There's one thing I'm not sure I can do, and that's parachuting. My husband and I have been talking about it for years, and I would be willing to go hang gliding. I want to try that. But parachuting, jumping out of a plane, I'm not sure if I can do that. If I do that, you'll know I have crossed that threshold, being totally fearless.
No, I'm thinking you can do the hang glide. I was like, oh, I haven't thought of that for a long time. Because you see people who do it in movies, they hang glide or like back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When you travel all over the world, you interview people. What was it? Why did you do it? And what make you like really inspired to do that?
Um, well, you know, I'm really adventurous and I love traveling and I love people, and I wanted to make a movie about the common themes that would emerge from asking all these people, how can we make world peace? And a lot of people said it's from the government. A lot of other people said it's from the people. A lot of people were taking the spiritual point of view. Some people said, you know, it has to start with food, making sure everyone has enough to eat. Other people said it's coming together and listening to each other. So there were a lot of answers, and it was fascinating.
And then you got more curious after you doing the interview, right?
Right, right. And we tied the answers together in the movie in common themes, common veins and stuff. And everywhere we went shows up in one of my books now, whether it was a conversation or something interesting that happened, or there's still, all those people are still coming to life in everything I write.
So you're saying that the conversation, the interview affected your life, and it.
Oh, absolutely, it did.
How did you develop your? How did you interview people?
Just like you are. Well, no, you're much more high tech than I was. We had an old movie camera.
No, I don't think that's high tech. I don't think so. I mean, yeah, maybe, but go ahead, go ahead.
Well, we'd sit it down in somebody's living room and just interview them, you know, everywhere, like in Morocco and Thailand, all Russia, South Africa, Brazil, all over the place. We just had this big camera and we would just interview people. It was that, like I said, that was another honor of a lifetime.
And that means you have seen a connection between all these interviews, between people. People are no different, even though the culture is slightly different and their habitual way of thinking are different. They're coming from a common theme. Because every time I interview people, there's a common theme that run through people's lives. Because I go to talk to people and understand why people marry a certain way, and I found out that some people married because of their past or the subconscious, because the subconscious always bring people forward their reality into fruition.
Mm-hmm.
But they not might know it, because I was
Right.
checking it. It's quite fascinating. When it
Yeah.
comes, when it comes to culture, what do you think about culture? Because you see it, like, what do you think about it?
Culture. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's a lot big, right? Because it's not like, yeah, it's good.
Well, it's values. What people value the most is what I think makes their culture. Um, but in all cultures, I mean, one of the things most highly valued is family, children. That always comes first. Work, self-expression. Um, those are the commonalities across cultures. But I mean, even here in the States, we have different cultures in different parts of the country. Even in each state, we have different cultures in different parts of the state. Um, like I live in Colorado, and Denver and Boulder are they're very young, they're very progressive, they're very busy. On the other side of the state, it's much slower, steadier, solid, less frenetic. I mean, and it's settled into people's lifestyle and the way they live their lives. And there's definitely a in this state there's a culture clash between those two cultures. We call it a purple state, not blue or red, but both blue and red coming together. So,
Thank you. How can we make this world a better place to live? Because there's so much toxicity in people's lives, and I feel like they want more, but they don't know how.
well,
I know it's a big thing because it's for me because that's what I want to do, to be able to say like there's a better world to live in, not just like I see it because I don't for me when I was working as a they call us a core. I hate how they say you live in America, you should say it that way, but Sakura, Japanese restaurant,
mhm.
and I was working there. I hate that you're tied into this notion where you clock in, you clock out, but you don't have time to live your dream, your life, to be something that you're meant to live, or whatever your higher self, whatever, like the spiritual people will say, right? And
Mhm.
that's why I wanted to do this.
Well, this is a great part of helping to make the world a better place. When I was what you're doing, I mean, when I was when I was traveling the world, um, I met a woman in Kenya, and she said, I asked her how we can make world peace, and she said, "Well, what would you say?" And I said, "I would say that it starts within." That when we truly love ourselves, we're more loving in the world. We can shine our light brighter. When
Hmm,
we hate ourselves, that's when we do all these awful things, like the shooters.
right.
They don't love themselves, and they're inflicting mass pain, their own pain. They're scattering it across society, like the guy in New Zealand. By the way, I met my first husband in New Zealand. New Zealand to me is like the perfect country. It's beautiful. People are hip. It's a fabulous country. Um, but like, I mean, Donald Trump obviously doesn't love himself, and his pain is being flung far and wide. His inner pain. That's my opinion. So I think it starts with loving ourselves, giving voice to those creative urges we have that,
Hmm,
let us do what we came here to do, what we truly love to do. And it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be a movie or a book. It could be sewing a dress. It could be planting a garden. It could be something, making dinner for the family. That could be that done with love and a sense of fun is a huge gift to here and out there.
hmm.
Mm.
Thank you so much. That's a perspective that I never thought that um, a new way of thinking like that. It's like I was like, huh, that's very interesting. Thank you so much. That makes sense. Yeah, I get tired of listening to all these horrible things that people do to other people. It's really sickening. Like how what was it? It's especially in America. They're kids though.
I know and for whatever reason, they're in so much pain.
Well,
They're,
also
go
yeah.
ahead.
Well, I think also because we've been trying to we people take drugs for antidepressant,
Yeah.
That's horrible because it doesn't. Because one of my the lady that always help us, she's like, if you're depressed, you take drugs, like with the antidepressant. No, that's not how you do that.
No.
Yeah, and it's because I listened to one of my friends. He was depressed for years, and he take antidepressant. It's, it, I think people need meaning. I think people need something that doesn't have to take drugs.
Right, right. And also, it's the food supply. I mean, so many of our foods are poisoned,
Oh yeah.
and our air and our water. And kids are inside a building all day. They don't get outside in the sunshine and, screaming and doing all the stuff that kids are supposed to do. There's so much that's wrong that we need to get going on. We need to get on those things.
Yeah, I mean, it's also the same thing as adults. They stop having fun too. They
That's,
become tense. Because what
yeah.
I try to express myself, like, it's like, come on, don't be tense. Like, I can't. That's why I want to enjoy my interviews because I can't do like a professional interview set where people wear suits and tie. I want to be relaxed, and have fun and try to hear what people have to say.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
great.
how when it comes to people who uh, want to begin to write, how would you suggest that they should write?
There's a very famous saying, and I don't know exactly where it came from, but the seat of the pants to the seat of the chair. So stick your butt down in a chair and at an appointed time every day where it's uninterruptible. And it can be 10 minutes, it can be an hour, it doesn't have to be all day. Just at an appointed time where nobody can interrupt and just start writing. But also, like I said, the ideas come all day long. So I think having a notebook, especially with the phones these days, you can speak the notes in. You don't have to type it. So as I'm driving, I'll just hit record and say, oh, I wrote half of my last book in the car
Oh,
driving,
what?
driving across Kansas.
Wow. Okay. I never thought that could be possible. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. When it comes, how did you ever imagine that your life would be this fun, adventurous? Okay.
Well,
Definitely.
when I was a kid, I no, I prayed and hoped and wished and dreamed for a life like this. Um, and then I left home at 18 to go to college, and that wasn't a really loud time. It was fun. I met a lot of people, and it was a fun time. But when I was 22, I moved to California, and that from New York, and I went to school in Boston. Then I just said, I'm out of here, and I went to California. And that's when I started being really adventurous. And people would say, well, where are you going to stay? And I just said, oh, at the Y. Who are you going to talk to? I said, whoever I meet.
Hmm.
So I started craving a really wild and crazy life, and I just started living it.
I bet you have a very like connection, a lot of connection that you have made over the years, people that you have meet, people that you have talked, the exchange. You probably have like really because because for me, the way I look at it, when we do these type of things, there's an intersection where the connection is being made.
Right, right.
And sorry, go
I
ahead.
stay in touch with a lot of people, with my best friend from kindergarten, from my college buddies, from people all over the world and from everywhere I've lived. I really like to stay in touch with people. I love social media for that because you don't have to go have coffee with everybody and you can still keep up with their lives. I'm not much of a phone talker. I'm not crazy about the phone. It's either social media or in a coffee shop having coffee.
Huh. How come you're not because we're talking over the video? How come you're not crazy about the phone?
Well, you and I, it's more like we're having coffee right now because we can look at each other.
Right.
Um, I mean, I'll do the phone. I'm not against it, but I'd much rather be in person.
Yeah, yeah. The person, yeah, it's better. Yeah, yeah, you can see a lot.
Yeah.
For me, when I play like cards with my friends, it's fun because you get to interact. I can't play because I try to play because I have friends that are over state, right, in PA, and I try to play games, card game with him. Yeah, it's fun, but it's not like interacting like face to face.
Right.
Um,
Right.
when it comes to your, what was it? Do you have intuition?
Absolutely. We all do.
Are you into the spiritual space or self help stuff?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How did you meet the what's her name? Uh, like I don't want to mess her name up. That's why Annalie Ford. How did you met her?
Ariel Ford.
Yeah.
I actually met her on Facebook. I used to be an editor in a magazine where I worked pretty closely with her sister who died a few years back. And Ariel, she's just such a wonderful person. And I, like I said, I met her through Facebook and we developed a friendship there. So, but I was in her world even before that. So,
The stuff that she have written. Have you watched The Secret?
yeah,
Okay. I was
I
like,
love this.
okay. Oh, she said that. Okay, The Secret. I mean, I could. I wish. No, for me, this is my message for people who are in. Because I want to change things a little bit in The Secret. I mean, the way that people do things that are really out of hand is that, for me, the way I look at it is because I had to deal with failures. And I wanted to say, because people, like, I do believe in my whole cold heart that the universe is where I don't know if it's listen to your thoughts, but it's magnetic power, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
draws people into your life. The
Mm-hmm.
Because I see miracle all happen all the time. For instance, because I was worrying about, because I was putting my check in the bank, I forgot that I have to wait for like a day to um, uh, it will what's it? The money will come out or the
Clear,
money will do that. Yeah, right.
clear.
And
Yeah.
so I start buying the food, and then I couldn't like pay for it. I was like, oh crap, and I forgot. So what ended up happening is I wish I took a video of what this person did. I was grateful for that, and it was a blessing. So what happened was the cashier was about to void it. There was this lady. She said she'll pay for it. I said, oh shoot. And then she said, how much for it? 25. I said 25. And she said, okay. I was so happy. I was like, holy shit.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so cool. But I
Oh,
wish,
beautiful.
yeah, I'm grateful and I was happy. But I wish I could like just film it so like people know that they're good. I think that the universe is bringing people into my life to share a message for people that are good in people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because people think that there's no good in people.
Yeah.
Because for me, I've been betrayed before, um, and it's tough for me. I haven't said it out loud. It's tough for me to say friends because back in college days, I was betrayed by a person who I thought was a friend.
Mm-hmm.
It was tough. I haven't
Mm-hmm.
like said that out loud in my youth.
Wow.
No.
I'm
But I still,
honored you said it with me.
huh?
I'm honored you said it with me.
Yeah. It's because like he took advantage of my kindness and he took advantage of my trust because I give trust out easily to people because I believe
Mm-hmm.
that people should be trusted. But now I do a thing where I test people, but I shouldn't do it. But I test people to see if I give out all the information, I'm gonna see what the type of person they are. If I give it out and
Right.
they mistrust it, miss it, I cut them off. That's
Mm-hmm.
how I do it.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you so much for that. It was very uncomfortable when I was saying it.
Yeah.
Because I think that when you talk out of it, when you talk, it's kind of like a therapy. I feel like.
Absolutely.
But anyway, that's too much about me. Um,
No, it's not.
no, I feel like because every time I interview people, I feel like if I interject like my kind of like my voice a little bit, I feel like that's kind of ruining the person like talking about them. That's how I feel because I don't want to.
That's not. No, you're just as important as anybody you interview.
Thank you so much. What does success look like to you?
Oh, success to me is when you wake up and if you won the lottery, you wouldn't change anything about your life. So you're doing what you want to be doing, living where you want to be living, with who you want to be living with, and that's success. So I'm pretty much there because I wake up with a wonderful man, do what I love all day long, writing and taking care of the marketing and stuff. I can't say I love the marketing, but but I do love writing. So the
Yeah,
marketing helps the writing.
yeah. I tell people like, well, I don't know if I told. That's the thing that missed in the secret a little bit is that we also have to deal with the marketing and selling, like, because we all do it. It's just that like there's so many levels like to spiritualities that there's so many like consciousness and higher level, and that there's so many ways. Um,
Yeah.
how do you see the secret and the law of attraction?
Um, Basically that wherever we're vibrating at, that's what we draw into our lives. So if we're vibrating at, let's just take a really rough example, but if we're vibrating at a really low level, we'll draw in people who will take advantage of us at that level, maybe be abusive, all that kind of low level stuff. If when we're vibrating at a higher level, we draw in higher people who will see our light, accept us for who we are and where we are, and things like that. For the physical things like money, a poverty consciousness draws in poverty, whereas a prosperity consciousness draws in prosperity. That's so wherever we're vibrating at, and you're looking skeptical. So I do.
No. I'm not. No, I'm not. Okay, so this is where I do, because I do the things where I was like, because my mind is how it works. I can analyze, because basically I read the Power of Charm by Brian Tracy, How to Win Influence by Daniel Carnegie, and I go out and talk to people a lot because I wasn't, because when I was a kid, we wasn't taught that you should pinpoint what people are interested in. You should listen to what people have to say about themselves. People like to talk about themselves, right?
Right.
Right. And so that's what I've been trying to do. But for me, I always do this to my friends too. Like when I do like this, my eyebrow, I was like, hmm? But I was pinpointing your question when you say poverty consciousness and prosperity consciousness. I was pinpointing. Maybe you have read Think and Grow Rich.
Um,
But the thing
I
is, I
think
don't
I
know.
did a long time ago, like before you were born.
Holy crap. So that's why my eyebrow kind of like, or like going like this. I'm not skeptical to the point. I know that we attract things in our entire life. I know that for a fact. As I see, back when it was 2013, I saw something that I never saw before. It was amazing. Like I didn't know that people think coincidence happen. That's not it. It's because your thoughts or something how you vibrate and you meet people.
Right.
But yeah, but go ahead, explain. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, one of the things I was going to mention is you were talking about other people, and it's Ford: family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. So when you meet people, you do the FORD stuff: family, occupation, recreation. Like what do you do for fun, or how many kids do you have, or so what do you? Everybody says, what do you do, and what are your dreams? So. But yeah, I'm sure I read that back in the day. I read a lot of stuff back in the day.
What books are you into in the self-help genre?
Um, all kinds of books. I wrote one in self-help called Visioning.
Huh.
Um,
Oh yeah, I saw.
and I love The Secret. I mean, that's a great place. Do you know, have you ever heard of Pam Grout? She writes
Yeah,
one.
I interview her and I have her book. No, I think the secret, because I wanted to do a video on the secret where Rhonda Byrne is where she understood something that most people didn't understand. So hear me out. So I have the secret book somewhere. I had it. All right. So when she start saying that she had struggles and failures, I understood it because when she started out from the beginning and she showed it from the film, she's hitting people subconscious mind because people are suffering and struggle,
Mhm.
and she want to
Mhm.
relate to them.
Mhm.
And then I was like, oh, that's why. And it's not just the secret, but it's hitting the point of people have that need something more, and that's why they
Mhm.
people want like um to achieve something. But yeah,
Right.
it,
Right.
I understood it. I was like, yes, because basically, when every time I do interviews or do videos, I try to hit home with storytelling because she
Right.
what's her name, Rhonda Byrne storytell, and when it used because people remember stories, they remember the facts, but they hit more stories. When they relate to people, they feel like that's why every time I said that I'm dumb, but it can relate to people.
Mhm. Mhm.
I say you're a genius because
Mhm.
when I say I feel like that, but when I say that I'm a genius, meaning that we have the ability to learn, I love
Right.
the brain cells. But yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Right.
Oh yeah, what do you like about Pangra?
About, oh, well, I know her. She was a friend of mine when I lived in Kansas. Well, she's still a friend of mine, but I met her back when I lived in Kansas. She she's just a great writer, and she puts a lot of humor into her books. And I actually love doing that too, because I think when you can open the heart, you can get more truth in. So opening the heart through humor and through really touching scenes and honesty, like the way you're so honest, that's really heart opening.
Hmm.
So,
Well, I mean, I learned that through because most of the world we hire ourselves, right? It's like relationship. People at first sight they put the best self version of them, right?
mm-hmm,
And they because I see it a pattern through my relationship. People put their best self first, but because one of my recent actually said uh, we're just so different, but we've been different since the time we met, but we're just coming to the commonality. But the book, because I look up to a lot of entrepreneur women that are entrepreneur, like this lady right here.
mm-hmm.
Um, the lady that worked for Mark Zuckerberg, she said, "You got to tell the truth, even though it's uncomfortable."
Right, right,
I find it fascinating when you tell the truth, something happened, even though it's
right,
uncomfortable. It's something happened.
right, right.
But that's the thing that I see like over the corporations that manager put everything on the rug because they're uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm,
Like, you
mm-hmm.
know, telling the truth.
Right, right.
So that's
One other thing about Ariel Ford, she writes about love and finding love and wabi sabi love. You know, the technique of taking something imperfect and embellishing it to show off the imperfections. I love that. I'm actually writing a book called The Life of Your Love, which is about finding the love of your life, because that's one thing I've actually done very well.
well. I
My
was sorry. Go ahead. I was gonna ask you about that, but you go ahead.
Yeah, my husband and I met 13 years ago and um, are madly in love and just play off our similarities and kind of pour an embellishment into our dissimilarities, and
Right.
we really make it work. It's
how do you for people, or since you're gonna be writing, you're writing so many books. Oh my god. Are you gonna write like have you ever do you draw? Because that's my mind. Do you draw?
No,
Oh,
no, not at all.
but you're so creative. Oh my god.
I know, but no, I don't draw at all. I draw with words.
Okay, that's yeah. That you're right. You're right. How do you? So for a person who is trying to find what how can we what can we do if the people are single? What can they do to like to either find or whatever attract love to their life?
Well, one thing is to do all the healing work. So if there's anything to forgive or to let go of, just get all of that work done. And then just be living life so fully that finding somebody would be like the rose on the icing on the cake. Like you're not looking for somebody, but if somebody comes along, that's great. And then my husband and I wrote down lists of exactly what we wanted in the other person. He wrote a list of 40 things.
Jesus.
I was almost all of them. He said he wanted someone with blue eyes that sparkle, and he wanted someone intelligent, at peace with her world, and spiritually aware. And he was, I mean, so some of them were spiritual, and some were emotional, intellectual, and some were physical. And for the physical things, he was very specific. He wanted someone between 5'10" and 6 feet tall. I'm 5'11". So when,
Does
and then the very last thing on his list was she has her own list and I meet all of her criteria. And I did, and he still does. And the things on my list were spiritual powerhouse, family man, loving, has room in his life for a wonderful relationship, because so many people are so busy or work is all they want to do. That isn't what I wanted. I wanted, to be primary in somebody's life. No, he has his own creativity and his own work going. So
huh. You guys really are like succinct or like attracted. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
sympathetic.
is he into also the love, like self-love or love attraction?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I'm curious. What does he do?
He, for fun, he plays the bass guitar in a couple of bands, and he loves making music a lot of the day. And he's in IT, so he does things that are really, I have no idea what he's doing in there, but he's happy. And so he's IT-ish stuff.
What does it feel like to be married?
Oh,
For a person like me who never experienced it, what does it gotta be like commitment, right?
oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, this is my second marriage, and my first marriage, both times it was love at first sight. I mean,
you wrote that on the yeah, okay, I
I,
remember. Why do you believe in first at love sight?
I totally believe in love at first sight, because it happened to me twice. And before people say, but wait, what happened to the first one? Well, we got married, and we were married for 14 years, and we ultimately outgrew each other. I mean, in this day and age, to stay at the same pace when you get married in your 20s, to be the same person at the end of your 30s or early 40s, well, you're not the same person. So in our case, it was really good for us to go separate ways, and we did. And then after I healed from the ending of that relationship and wrote my list and all that, my Steve came into my life. And I mean, when I first looked at him, it was like looking at an angel. Like, I was like, oh my. So I can't explain myself. And I will tell you, we met online, We met online. So, and I have a bunch of friends who met their spouses online and stuff. So there's nothing wrong with that. And we came we talked for a few weeks before we met face to face. And we met face to face on July 14th, 2006. We got engaged on July 16th, 2006. I was living in Kansas from California a week later, and we got married 6 months later. And that was all 13 years ago. So something went right.
Jesus. I was thinking about now I just lost it. I had it, I lost it. Oh right, your what you say is not uncommon. I talked to this guy. It was a Vietnamese restaurant, and it was like Vietnamese soup. Uh, People think I have the. I chose. There was a guy who, because people, Asian men, get mad at Asian women for dating other race, like Caucasian or other than Asian. And
Oh,
and one of my friends, he got mad at that, but I never got mad at that because when I was a kid, I used to like a white girl, but I transitioned to Asian because I dated Asian because it's whoever you dated, have experience. It's like you're locked in, but I get to choose whoever. It's flexible. But I was questioning. It gave me the worldview is that online dating is not uncommon. It's common, and he, because I talked to him and I explained, why I'm doing this project, or because I asked a lot of people like whether they're Asian women or Asian men, why they or no Caucasian men why they choose to date other races. It's not that they choose because they fall in love,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so many times when we want something, we never ask for it. So sometimes I think that Asian men don't ask for what they want because we never
Mm-hmm.
taught, because we suppress like the girl, where we feel like, because when I was a kid, I was shy. I didn't know how to
Mm-hmm.
ask
I wish.
until uh, until I learned in Jack Canfield book, you ask, ask, ask.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I asked for the interview, I asked many people for interview. If I don't ask, I don't get. Right?
Right,
But I
right.
deal with a lot of rejection, so that's mine. So, but yeah, but the guys, it's fascinating. He's like, yeah, we met online, and I told my story about my life, and then he's like, yeah, I asked her first. I asked her. He did the asking,
Mm-hmm.
but that means that Asian men shouldn't get mad at other people dating another race,
Right, right.
because there's so many people.
Now, there are.
So, yeah.
We absolutely didn't have a particular race on either of our lists. We were wide open. So,
ah, when it comes, how that's incredible that you attract. Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, okay, and now I know where. How did you heal? What do you, for people who want to know what is, how do you heal from the past relationship? How do you forgive someone? People say,
um,
so that's what.
talking about it, talking about it, writing, for me, writing about it, journaling about it, letting time pass. I mean, it's not always a quick process. And then at the right time, it's time to let go, wishing them well on their journey. Um, just knowing that we're where we're supposed to be at any given time. I mean, where we're supposed to be, if it's not a good place, it's still where we're supposed to be. And the next place and the next moment can be something better. And we can make that choice and work towards it and allow it in. So it's forgiving, letting go, and it's not quick and easy. It can be, but it usually takes a fair bit of time.
Yeah, I do agree with that. It takes so much, like when I was breaking up with my ex, it takes so much energy, so much like I didn't want to do anything anymore. I didn't want to do interviews. I didn't want to read books. I just want to like whatever. Like I don't want to deal with it. It was so hard. It's like, but I read it in somewhere. I don't know if it's true or not, but in the blog it said that when people in relationship break off, people like felt like um, they're really depressed because their chemical is working like
Right.
dopamine, and when they break off, it's like that's where all the needs are getting. How do we? Because I was noticing that. How do we come from when it comes to a relationship? How do you make each other happy? While like, do you meet each other needs or like expectations should be expected, or how do we like get like that? Because I'm trying to figure that out.
Well, it's meeting each other's needs without letting go of our own self first. I mean, it's each of us and then it's the relationship, and they're all three important. So there's a lot of compromise. I mean, because sometimes what I want to do is very different from what he wants to do. So maybe we do both, or maybe we meet in the middle, but there's a ton of compromise. But it's not losing ourselves either in the compromising.
Yeah, that's the thing that I often find myself compromising, but I'm losing myself.
Right. That's
For me, I don't. I'm when it comes to love, I give my all my heart to the person, right?
right.
But the thing is, it's like it's when it comes, you're always compromising, but other person never compromise. Or they
Hmm.
try to, but they never work.
Yeah. Well, that's not a good thing. They need to compromise too.
Yeah, because basically, in every relation that I have, because I want to be me.
Mhm.
I don't like the way that I act. I attract attention, whether good or bad, but it's because I'm unique. Because I try
Mhm.
to figure a how to make things fun when I interact with people. I
Mhm.
like to make people smile when I can.
Right.
It's fun, but I like to go deeper into that. But what can one do? Like, because I don't want to compromise who I am. Because I compromised who I was in my recent relationship. The first relationship, I didn't compromise until the end. That we broke up. I tried to compromise, but it couldn't.
Mhm. Um, well, a lot of times when I really don't care about something, I'll just say, you have this one. You've got it. Because there's so many times I do care and I do dig my heels in and I really want something. So, I mean, it has to work out evenly that he he's getting what he needs and I'm getting what I need, and the relationship is getting what it needs. So I'm just coming back to that word compromising and making sure that one of those thirds isn't becoming a sixth and another area is growing too big. They all need to be taken care of.
I mean, I have a lot of growing and healing to do.
What's that?
I say I have a lot of healing and growing to do because
Oh, yeah.
it's so difficult. Um, when it comes to why 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 is it that we like women are into like romance and stuff like that? I'm still curious because I know why I am into romance. I know why. But
Okay. Well, I love writing love stories because love is the most fun thing on this planet. I mean, that crazy thing of falling in love is like, to me, that is so much fun. And any guy who says that isn't true is lying. So, um, but I will say, I mean, what I write is fiction and women's fiction, and even the Outlander series. I heard a seminar recently where people were saying that the people who are writing reviews for Outlander were kind of embarrassed, like saying, I don't usually watch or read this romance kind of stuff or this love story stuff. That's so much more than a love story. I mean, that's about new worlds and all kinds of stuff. So Everybody loves a good love story, I think. I mean, you got.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I can't speak for other guys. I watch a lot of romance, like Hallmark. I watch the Korean, because Korean drama have also romance. They have Japanese drama. They have romance. Oh my god, I'm in love with that. It's just like,
I think it's great.
well, the reason why is because my first one was really romantic. Because that was my first girlfriend, and my first kiss, my first everything. It was really romantic. We hold hands and stuff like that, and that's why it stuck into my head.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun.
Oh.
When are you gonna write your relationship book? Or
It's mostly written right now. I'm writing another book right now that I want to have done within the next month. And when that one's done, and I'll let it sit, I'll let that one sit for a little while, and I'll go back to the relationship book and finish that one up and put it out in the world. The one I'm writing now might have a publisher, so that will take a while to get out in the world. But one good thing about self-publishing is you can just throw it up on Amazon or in Kobo and every Google everywhere, and it's out there in the world already giving its gift. So, and I love what publishers do too. So they're both good.
so it's, I don't know, interesting. You can see both sides. I mean,
Yeah.
because I was thinking about if you are publishing that book, I'm gonna buy it because I usually buy every other self-help books. And I would like to interview for that one for
Oh,
the
great.
that
I'd
that
love that.
that.
I'd love that.
Where can we? Oh yeah, come on! I had it, but I lost it. Oh my god! Where can we find you online?
Amazon. All my 6 books are on Amazon right now. And also my website, anncrawford.net. There's no E on Ann, so it's just ANN Crawford, like Cindy Crawford, .net. So that's my website, and I have my links to all my books and my movies on there, and my blog.
Oh yeah, yeah. I saw your blog. Don't worry, I'll put the description in the YouTube. Where what would if you can have any superpower, what would it be?
What a great question. Um, wow.
Yeah, I start having fun with these interviews now. I was like, you know what? I'm curious what people think.
Hmm. Probably to fly around the world at warp speed. Just
Ooh.
to go all those places I've been and get back there in the blink of an eye. I would
Yeah,
love to.
you were right. Yeah, people was like, yeah. I want to do. There's this card anime where you can just like do this and you teleport to an.
Right.
Yeah.
Teleporting. Yeah, forget the flying part. Just teleport. Instant. Beep
but,
beam.
you like flying, so you can. I don't
I
know.
do like flying, but it takes a while.
Yeah. If you have a time machine, what would you do with it? Would you go to the past, present, or future?
Future.
Why future?
Oh, just to see what we've done. Just to see if we got the answers we were looking for, and if we could do the things we need to do, like clean up the water and the air and the food, and stop getting everybody on drugs and have more natural solutions and things like that. I, that's that's what I want. And if we haven't, go back to a moment in time, which is probably this moment right now, to steer things on the right path, to get them going on the right path.
Hmm. Why do you inspire? What's inside you that make you like want to inspire people? Why you want to help people?
That's what we're here for.
Hmm.
That's, I mean, if we keep it all to ourselves, a gift isn't a gift until it's given away. I mean,
Hmm.
and our lives are such a gift that I just think sharing, the ongoing sharing of our gifts and taking receiving other people's gifts, like your interviews and other people's books and people's music, and just celebrating each other's creativity. It's what we're here for, giving it and receiving it. Love, creativity, smiles.
Do you it seems like you know about these laws, like the spiritual law. I feel like you know.
What's that?
I feel like you know about the spiritual laws.
I do.
Okay.
I've had some experience with them.
Okay, can you explain that? Because I was like, okay, you're talking about receiving, and then you're talking about giving and receiving.
Right, right. It's the same thing. We can't give until we're empty, and we can't receive until we're too full. It has to be reciprocated with life, with the people around us. And I've been studying this for 35 years. So
What make you study the spiritual aspect? Because you did say spiritual aspect. What is spirituality to you?
it's that greater awareness of knowing that there's something bigger, that whatever you want to call it, whether it's the universe or life or God or whatever you want to call it, that and that we're all connected in this universe, life, sphere of living, that there's no place where I end and you begin, because we all go on forever. We're all reaching to the other side of the universe, and it's coming back. It's all connected. It's all one thing. The atoms that make up the stars are the atoms that make up us too. So
Okay, that's great. So I was watching all these things, right, about how I felt like what you're saying, because I was watching what you're saying, and like you literally said what you're saying. Like, holy crap, I don't even know how to say this. All right, so I feel like what you say, like when we go out of the body, like pass on, there's another level, like where they said the fifth dimension and all that. But I was like, I was getting to this, but I can't remember. But I feel like there's no, like, we're here to learn something. That's what they say, right? We're here to learn something, and then when we pass, through whatever journey that we're going on, we're gonna level up or something. I don't know, but that's what I was watching. It's quite interesting. Do you think that this world that we're living is a hologram, a simulation? Because I was watching that.
I'm not sure about that, but I will say we can live in the fifth dimension now.
Oh,
We don't have to wait for it. We can bring it in now. It's just where it's that realm where we know that we're connected to everything, even to the farthest edges of the universe.
is it thought that the fifth dimension, or is it? How can we? What is it? Because I'm not.
It's a thought, it's a realm, it's a mindset.
Yeah, because I was trying, because I try to, like, the I was like, okay, how do you, like, because I try to study. I'm not into, like, really deep, because I don't know much about the dimensions, like, deeply. That's why I try to understand it. But I
Mm-hmm.
do understand that when we want to experience something, I don't know if you know Bob Proctor, like his work. Bob Proctor, no?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
do.
I was, I think either yesterday night, I tried to fall asleep, so I was watching his You Were Born Rich again. So, because I try to rewrite my goals, because I got inspired by Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee
Mm-hmm.
understood the spiritual laws of the universe. Bruce Lee understood, because I had a book where he talked about this, what Think and Grow Rich talked about. But Bob Proctor talking about when you bring your people are working from the physical, and they're trying to work, change their physical reality by changing the physical reality. Bob Proctor said you gotta go from the top to the higher realm and then influence the physical. But that's what
Right.
you're doing. Like, that's incredible. Like, what made you go on to this journey of spirituality?
Right. I do want to add, Einstein said that too, that you can't solve a problem at the level of the problem. You have to go up higher.
Right.
It's that adventurous spirit we were talking about earlier. I've just always been interested in learning more, seeing more, knowing more, experiencing more life.
But
That
weren't you how is it? You never was skeptical about anything like with the law of attraction or psychic or spirituality or fifth dimension.
when I was young, I probably was, but by the time I really started, you know what happened in 1987? I took a class from Nikki Scully, who's an author and a world-renowned teacher, and it was on something similar to Reiki, and I first discovered that Reiki power that we all have.
Right.
I felt it for the first time, and there was no going back after that. It was like I could feel this power. I can lay my hands on people and heal them. And lots of religions and people have the laying on of hands. We all have that ability. But once I had crossed that line, there was no going back. I mean, I knew too much.
Oh, God. Yeah, it's like me. I know like a little bit. Like I can't go back to the way it was, where I don't know about the law of the universe or about us as a human being. Because I was like, wow, we're incredible. Like we can influence things. Just don't. It was like, oh my God. But yeah, you bring a good point. How did it felt to be a best-selling author the first time?
Oh, it was great. It was wonderful. It was
How
wonderful.
did you like get into it? Like did you always wanted to be a best-selling author or?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for most of my life, I did. Yeah.
But you're so humble and wisdom. Jesus Christ. I'm sitting here, just by you sitting, like I'm sitting here listening to you. I was like, oh God, this is great. I never like, it's incredible.
Well,
You've been,
thank you.
you're welcome. You've been a gift. I hope that the viewers like know that this is incredible. Anyways, like, oh Jesus,
Well, I'll post it. I'll post it.
thank you.
I also love being an award-winning author. I got an award on my book Angels on Overtime, which is a very spiritual book. It's my specialty is spiritual comedy, so being funny yet going very deep. And then my latest book, Fresh Off the Starship, is up for an award. It's a finalist right now, and I should know in a couple of weeks if it actually won the award. So that's just getting started, that whole realm.
Do you believe in aliens? I'm I just want to.
Well, I've never met one that I knew was an alien, but I have total acceptance that there are. And
What would you do if alien abduct you?
abducted me.
Yeah.
Well, it depends what they wanted to do. I mean, if they wanted to just talk and learn about life on Earth and all that kind of stuff, I'd be totally up with that.
Wow.
I'd
But
love to meet with them.
sorry, go ahead, Troy.
I'd love to meet with them and stuff. But if they're going to do like, we all hear about those anyway. If they're going to go in that direction, I'm not interested.
But you do have a sense of humor. Did you always have that, or?
I was probably pretty serious as a kid because life around the house was so sad. But my brother and a few of my sisters have and still have a really great sense of humor. And my parents had a quiet sense of humor. I think it came out more as I got older, and it keeps coming out more and more the older I get. And my husband and I, one of our favorite things to do is make each other laugh. So we're always doing that,
Oh, that's so cute.
being silly and playful and
Uh,
prankster.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
You're so welcome. It was such a pleasure
Yeah, it was too.
and
Um,
an honor.
yeah, go ahead.
And an honor.
Yeah, it is an honor. Thank you so much for your generosity, and
Thank you.
I cherish this moment. Um,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome. After this, when I'm done uploading, you want me to send it to your email?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have a good time.
Mm.
Uh, I'm over here at 5. You're over there like what, like 4, 3,
322.
3:22. I'll see you.
Right.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye.
bye.